Hello, good people. It is Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. And guys, I got to tell you, I'm wearing glasses because I got out of my bed to do this video. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I might try to fall asleep listening to, some content, trying to get caught up. And I saw that Candace Owens had made a response to Ben Shapiro's AmFest speech. And y'all, I have to say, I listened to this thing and there was no way I was going to be able to fall asleep. I had already taken out my contacts because I'm blind as a bat. And I don't feel like putting them back in. So I got out of the bed and I put my glasses on and I said, I have to do this video. It's like 2:00 in the morning right now. So I hope I don't wake up my family. But y'all, when I tell y'all that Candace Owens goes completely unhinged, full Joy Reid insanity, I am not exaggerating. I was literally laughing out loud when some of the ridiculous things, apparently things that I didn't know, things that I'm now learning from Candace Owens, the Jews apparently responsible for slavery, especially slavery of black people. Y'all, I did not know this. Candace Owens put me onto this fact. Also, black people need to wake up to the real oppressor, which is the Uden, as it were. And apparently I didn't know that whether or not you're doing the right thing or wrong thing is a popularity contest. So we are going to watch this. And I got to tell you, this is probably, just strap in, this is probably going to be a longer video. It could be upwards of an hour. But we're going to watch this together because this is absolute insanity. Okay? Let's just jump into it.
And I'd like, first and foremost, just to let you all know, some people noticed that he wasn't on the AmFest list for years, and all of a sudden he's back on the speaker list beginning in 2024. I want to let you know how that actually happened. So the story goes, obviously, that in 2024, Ben fired me in March. Well, he would say management fired me. But firing me wasn't enough. He wanted to make sure my reputation and livelihood was also destroyed. Of course, what happened thereafter is Charlie Kirk instantly came out and supported me because we were like brother and sister, always supporting each other publicly. And then I showed you guys a few episodes ago that we found out as I was going to speak in Dallas at their YWLS convention that Ben had sent an intern who was going to ask me a question while I was on stage, but we sort of rumbled this plan. And I called Ben out on stage. Ben did not like that I called him out on stage. So he began working behind the scenes to have Jewish donors start threatening Charlie to make sure that I wasn't invited to speak at year end because I was an anti-Semite. This is what Charlie told me. And instead, he wanted to be invited. So he's just going to purchase a friendship, right? So he comes at Turning Point USA, and this is what was divulged to me from Andrew Colvett at the time, willing to spend an offensive amount of money to be a part of AmFest. Like I said, that was told to me by Andrew Colvett directly because he wanted to say, look, obviously, we are totally...
I just have to say, Candace is claiming to get an awful lot of intel from Andrew Colvett, and she's done nothing but throw him under the bus. So I'm trying to figure out what the situation is. Is Andrew Colvett was he like somebody who trusted Candace and thought Candace was a friend, and then Candace would take his information, stab him in the back, and accuse him of covering up Charlie's murder? I don't know, but every time I turn around, she's telling me something that Andrew Colvett told her, and I don't know. I just thought that was worth noting.
Charlie is 100% on your side. This is like an offensive ad spend. I was like, take his money. I could care less, obviously. And I knew that he was working with Barry Weiss to call and put an article out saying that the donors, the people on the board of TPUSA want Candace gone. All of this petty behind the scenes behavior because I called him out on stage. Okay. So quite literally, this is the definition of buying friends and influence and fame. Now, in case you're listening and thinking, is Ben Shapiro actually capable of that level of pettiness? I'm going to tell you a story about Thomas Sowell. Yes, Dr. Thomas Sowell of Stanford.
Now, I just want to pause right here because I have to say, this is something that Candace apparently has become quite astute at doing, which is setting up framing to try to make it seem like, okay, this person is a bad person, and she allows you to fill in the gaps in your mind of the things she is actually accusing them of, but the setup and the framing doesn't have anything to do with the accusation. So, for example, she does this with the Brigitte Macron series. She spends an inordinate amount of time talking about how bad of a person Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron are, or how bad people they are. I know that wasn't grammatically correct, but just bear with me. It's late. I'm trying to get through this. And then you get to the end of it and you say, well, okay, well, maybe they are bad people, but does that mean she's a man? Right? This is the sum total. I think this is like 90% of everything Candace Owens ever says. Every accusation she makes is completely, like, the setup is completely unrelated and the conclusion she wants you to reach is a total non sequitur. It doesn't follow. And what you're going to find, so I'm just going to preempt her at her own game, but this time it's going to be actually structural and is actually going to be meaningful to this conversation, which is that you're going to notice that everything she says has nothing to do with whether or not what Ben Shapiro said at AmFest is true. What was Ben Shapiro's principal claim? That what Candace is doing is immoral because she's accusing Charlie's friends and colleagues, close friends and colleagues, of either participating in or covering up for his murder and also attacking his widow. Okay? That's the claim. So either what she's doing is okay and she's not doing that, or she is doing that, but it's justified because she has some hard evidence that that's the case. And since neither one of those are true, everything she's about to say is irrelevant, even if it's all true. So let's just keep that framing in mind and let's let her continue.
The story begins in 2023, shortly after October 7th. Ben was sort of having another one of his open nervous breakdowns, and his audience just went kaput. People just stopped watching his podcast because he was screaming at Americans that we needed to prioritize Israel, and people just didn't feel that way.
There again, you're going to see a lot of odd framing. It's just like, thousands of people in Israel just got destroyed. Probably a lot of his friends and family. That should be something he shouldn't feel some way about. He's like, oh, he's unhinged. It's like, yeah, he just lost a lot of important people. So that's kind of a weird way to frame it. But anyway.
Okay, it's not our country. I'm sorry that happened to you, but why do Americans need to be screamed at about what's happening in the Middle East?
And is that what he was doing? Was he screaming at them? I mean, Candace Owens is just such a scumbag. And there again, that doesn't mean that what she's saying is untrue. It's just a point. I'm not saying that to say what she's saying is false. I'm just saying she is a scumbag. That's just a matter of fact.
Anyways, throughout this time, Brian Mast was wearing an IDF uniform in Congress, and he basically said that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. And when I saw this, as shared by Yashar Ali on X, I responded.
By the way, he did not say that, but let's continue.
And I said that genocidal language, no matter who shares it, is always wrong. Genocide is always wrong is what I tweeted. And this caused an emotional breakdown amongst people who support Israel. I didn't think that was a controversial statement. I thought that was sort of what we all believed in. Genocide is always wrong. Anyways, for Ben, he then had some private event, probably at another Jewish donor's house. And
at another Jewish donor, why? There again, why does that matter? Jewish donor. Jewish donor. That doesn't have anti-Semite vibes at all, does it?
And somebody caught him standing on a table insulting me over my genocide is always wrong tweet. Take a listen to what Ben had to say.
And then the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. I think it's I can't, what was that? Yeah, I mean, she still works for my company. And I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
Now, unfortunately for Candy Owens, I live in this world, kind of, semi. I'm not a pro, okay? But my ears are low to the ground, okay? And so her framing of this is completely dishonest. Now, it might be the case that the time frame of what she said about the supposed genocide and what Ben Shapiro said might have coincided with respect to the time frame. But this was one infraction for Candy Owens among many. And this is what she does all the time. You know, it's the plausible deniability. Not only is it dishonest, but it's cowardly. And she had, for example, I remember she had this guy, Larry Finkelstein. Is it Larry Finkelstein? Norman Finkelstein. Norman Finkelstein is, and I can't remember if she had him on before this or after. It's probably, I don't want to use that example because I might have my time frame mixed up here with Norman Finkelstein. But I remember that Ami Horowitz, for example, was on her show, and she didn't understand basic facts, like she was saying, in Israel they have a segregation for the Muslim quarters. They have these places where only the Muslims can go. And she didn't even know what she was talking about. And the accusation there is that, you know, in Israel they mistreat Muslims, and so they don't see, like, Israel just doesn't seem like a country that's a good place. And she was doing things like this that were just over and over and over again, showed that she was supremely ignorant about what was happening with respect to Israel and Gaza and the whole conflict. She didn't know what she was talking about, obviously making such an obvious elementary error. And she was doing things like this all the time. And so if, in fact, Ben Shapiro's comments were triggered by her genocide statement, then that was just one infraction among many, and that would have put him over the top. Because the accusation of genocide is a common one levied by leftists and Gaza apologists, Muslim apologists, and jihadists. It's not a genocide. Okay, that's not what's happening there. And no one was suggesting that was going to happen. And this whole thing is just a lie. So once again, she was talking about a genocide that wasn't happening, saying somebody was using genocidal language, which wasn't happening. And then she's saying, well, he was attacking me because I said something that was obvious, which is that nobody should ever commit genocide. And this is just like the whole thing where she says, well, I wasn't accusing Erica Kirk. I never said her name. You see the shell game that she plays? It's pretty pathetic, but let's let her continue.
Disreputable, disgraceful. She works at my company. You can imagine that the internet went crazy because they wanted me to respond to him. I can't believe this. They work together, they're colleagues. Somehow this gets leaked. And I want to mention, because it's very relevant, that was on the morning of November 14th. I was 6 days away from giving birth. I was very heavily pregnant.
Now she's trying to garner sympathy. She's going to do this. This is what I'm saying. She goes full Joy Reid, full DEI. Okay, it's like, I'm a pregnant woman. How dare he? So what? So what? You don't get special treatment. You were working. You know what? if you being 6 months pregnant or 6 days away from birth was that big a deal, you shouldn't have been working. It's odd. She's going to reveal that later. She goes on to have this interview with Tucker that was pre-booked. So she said that was 3 days before she gave birth. So it's like, dang, girl, you're well enough to work. You're well enough to be criticized.
Anyways, I wake up to this, and shockingly, nobody from the Daily Wire steps in to manage the situation. And as you can imagine, virtually every journalist, every person with a media platform was contacting me to comment, to respond to me being insulted by someone. I'm about to give birth, I'm being insulted, and they're not getting anything from the Daily Wire. So I am obviously frustrated. You should also tell you, I had no PR at this time. My PR was the internal PR at the Daily Wire. And it was very clear that their focus was on protecting Ben, even though he was the one who insulted me publicly, because I said that genocide is always wrong. That is the genesis of that statement. That's all I said.
That's all you said, Candace? Just like you never accused Erica of covering up her husband's murder because you didn't say her name. It's really odd because, for example, when Erica was criticizing her on Fox and Friends when she was on, why I always forget her name, Harrison Faulkner, when she was on the Faulkner Focus. Erica never said Candace's name, but Candace knew who she was talking about. So it's like she always knows when people are talking about her subliminally, but she's never talking about anyone else subliminally. Is that how it works?
Obviously, I wanted to respond angrily to the press. I wanted to hit back at Ben. And I guess you could sort of say my perspective was an eye for an eye, but my husband, who is a better person than me, instructed me that morning to instead take a deep breath, relax, okay? Don't think about what you're feeling in the moment. Think about how you're going to feel in the future. And he instructed me to instead read the Bible, the Sermon on the Mount. And I read through it, and he reminds me that everybody who wants to comment, they don't care about me either, right? They're selling headlines, they want the clicks, they want the drama, and I'm going to feed into that for what reason? For what reason, actually, am I going to give a comment and say something about Ben Shapiro? Blessed are the peacemakers, right? Don't buy into this click culture. And so I tweeted that actually my husband was right. I called for peace. I tweeted, blessed are the peacemakers. And I made the mistake, I guess it was a mistake, that after I tweeted, blessed are the peacemakers, and I'm thinking that I'm going to be commended when I get back to work. Like, wow, you really took the high road. I ended this biblical passage with Christ is king. Christ is the king. He's the only thing that matters. Obviously, Christ is king. Now, it was just Tucker Carlson's luck that I had been slated to come on his news show the very next day. He had booked me 6 weeks earlier. I got approval from Daily Wire. He booked me for November 15th. So suddenly Ben gets on this table. He insults me. It's trending all over Twitter. And Tucker Carlson is going to be the first person to capture my reaction to it. And when it came time, I kept up with the peacemaker. I made the decision to just take the high road. I said, I don't want that to negatively impact how people perceive the Daily Wire. There are great people there. I mean, I wouldn't be proud on that, but I'm not taking the bait here. I didn't say anything snipey back at Ben because I didn't want to feed the mob. That was my honest perspective. My husband was just right. And also, we're talking about a work colleague, right? Somehow, me taking the high road made him angrier. So here's what he did. Elsewhere in my interview with Tucker, he asks me who I look up to, who I like. And I told Tucker the truth that it was my dream to meet Thomas Sowell. That when I first got into politics, I read a ton of Thomas Sowell books, and I had tried many times to meet him. And obviously he's aging, but I really looked up to Dr. Thomas Sowell. And here's that clip with me and Tucker.
Who do you listen to when you're trying to figure out, some of the stuff comes at you so fast and you're talking almost every day or writing almost every day. Who do you read or listen to try to make sense or bounce ideas off of?
You know,
Who do you
I
trust?
have been obsessed with Thomas Sowell. And everybody knows that I am pretty much a Thomas Sowell groupie. Everything he writes, I read. And it is because he was a part of my awakening story into politics and made me focus on the economics, which is to say, block out the noise and pay attention to the
Yes.
economics.
I just like to comment. Candace's weave has gotten a significant upgrade. Props to her hairstylist.
Go backwards in history to understand where we are. When has this worked? Oh, it's never worked. So they're telling you that it's going to work into the future, and there's no evidence to support that. So when Ben saw that, he decided, Thomas Sowell, hey, that's your dream. You love Thomas Sowell. He thought that was an opportunity to get even with me for taking the high road after he insulted me on stage because he's deeply jealous of Tucker Carlson for reasons that I cannot quite understand. Ben had his team reach out and schedule an interview with Thomas Sowell, which they paid for an offensive amount of money, I presume, to effectively purchase a black man who has no idea what's going on. He's very old, he's in his 90s, to hurt my feelings, okay?
Do you see what I'm saying? Purchase a black man. This is when she starts to go full Joy Reid, right? This is when she goes full MSNBC nut job leftist. And I got to tell you, this is, in my opinion, this is who Candace Owens has always been deep down inside. She kept that covered up pretty good for a couple years, and now Big Ben Shapiro is bringing it back to the surface. Good on you, Ben Shapiro. Now, here's the thing. Once again, let's remember our framing. Even if every word of what she's saying is true, what does that have to do with whether or not she should be and whether she is justified in attacking Erica Kirk and attacking Andrew Colvett and the people at Turning Point USA? What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Absolutely nothing. You see, she's got to go all the way back to this stuff and try to say, and first of all, we don't really have any reason to think that Candace Owens is telling the truth because she's a bona fide pathological liar. Why should we take everything she's saying at face value? I mean, I'm happy to grant it. I'm happy to grant, for the sake of this argument, that Ben Shapiro is petty and he did these things to get back at her and that he shouldn't have responded to her the way she did and that she tried to make peace. That doesn't mean that her bullcrap narrative about Gaza and genocide and the Jews is somehow bona fide or justified. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that her outright and obvious anti-Semitism, which it's really funny because she's going to self-own, because she's going to play some of the reasons based on Jeremy Boring's explanation of why they fired her that make it blatantly obvious that they were right to fire her. She's only gotten worse since she left the Daily Wire. So this is my point. Purchase a black man. Like what? So now she's accusing Ben Shapiro of racism. This is amazing. Let's go. It's going to get better.
Interview with Tucker is on the 15th. I think it premieres on the 16th. And Ben gets Thomas Sowell, who he doesn't care about. I'm working at the Daily Wire at this moment, and I'm about to give birth in 3 days. But this was supposed to be like an F.U. Candace for taking the high road and saying that genocide is always wrong.
Now, just think about this. Think about how... Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think Dr. Sowell had a book come out not too long before that, and so this would have made sense for Dr. Sowell to be interested in doing that. It might have been Charter Schools and Its Enemies. I'm not sure. I've read that book. It's a great book, but the fact that him saying that Ben Shapiro doesn't care about Thomas Sowell, it's like saying, American historians don't care about George Washington. Every conservative understands that Dr. Thomas Sowell is an institution in and of himself. Okay? Thomas Sowell is like standard mandatory reading for any conservative thinker. Dr. Sowell means a lot to everyone who has anything to say in the socio-political landscape. So she is just lying here. Okay? This is stupid. It's like saying, oh, Vince Lombardi doesn't mean anything to football coaches. It's like, hello? The Vince Lombardi is the guy that the Super Bowl trophy is named after? What are you talking about?
That is what I mean when I say he is an incredibly petty man. Okay? Now, we know how this ends. I then am fired not for what I said, but for what they assumed that I meant, and for trolls that I didn't respond to. And I want to be clear, you can fire whoever you want. You really can if you're a business owner. It's just that this was atypical in the fashion that it was done, right? It wasn't done in the way where you just say, okay, get out of here, it's not working. Instead, what they decided to do was humiliate me in front of all of the other employees by, rather than having a conversation, sort of dramatically having me exit after doing my show, not knowing that I was going to be fired. And then they had put together a stage in my studio and put up clips put together basically a whole package, like almost like a high school play, and conducted what I honestly, when I look back, because it recently leaked what happened at this quote unquote town hall, this is a slave hanging. This is a slave hanging, right?
Now, I got to tell you, I was in my bed and my wife is in the bed. She's asleep. And I had to contain my laughter when I heard that. I'm like, did she just go full Joy Reid? A slave hanging? I'm telling you, this chick. All right, let's continue because it gets better.
Right? Gather around, everybody else is a slave, and let me tell you how this one messed up. Gather around and watch us whip this person. This is literally how I feel when I watch this, okay? And you'll know what not to do next. And here is a video of the then CEO, Jeremy Boring, which somehow Steven Crowder got a hold of this week or last week or whatever. This is just a portion of it. You should watch the entire thing because it really is something. And ask yourself in your memory, do you ever recall anybody ever being fired where 300 employees, which Ben joined electronically, he was up on the screen too, and just enjoyed watching me be humiliated, where 300 employees are invited down and shown a production of what this person did wrong? Okay, well, let's watch a little bit of this video.
See, in Candace's diseased mind, because she thinks she's the center of attention, right? She thinks it's about her. She thinks that this is some production designed to embarrass her. When it never occurred to her that if they have 300 employees and they're going to fire high-profile talent, that maybe they would want to have a thorough explanation as to why they were doing that, and that the most efficient way to do it is to do a public kind of town hall. We have these, I work in corporate America, we have, whenever they have big time announcements, especially something that's going to be addressed by the company's CEO or president, we have an all hands or a town hall because you want to disseminate that information firsthand. You don't want to send out a memo. You don't want to send out an email. You want to address it because this is a big deal. This is going to have a major impact on the organization. One of their talents is going to be fired. She thinks it's a production designed about and around her, when really this is for the employees. But Candy Owens cannot conceive of such things where she is not at the center of everyone's world. Her mind is diseased. It's like I said, it's a bag of cats. But let's watch her self-own because this is good.
Candace made no statement at all in the days after Hamas terrorists raped, murdered, and tortured over 1,000 Israeli civilians, mostly Jews, some Americans. And then they took hundreds more hostage. But then on October 28th of 2023, while anti-Israel protests were raging in London, where Candace, I believe, was at the time, she reposted a video of the protests on X, commenting, quote, "Interesting thing happening here. People are not accepting the media narrative about what's happening in the Middle East, despite the insistent rhetoric from government officials." On November 3rd, she posted, quote, "No government anywhere has a right to commit a genocide ever. There is no justification for a genocide. I can't believe this even needs to be said or is even considered the least bit controversial to state." There was only one country on earth being accused of genocide at the time. Anti-Semites on X took to it immediately. They cheered at what they rightly or wrongly interpreted as Candace smearing Israel. And Candace didn't rebuff their interpretation. But when Dave Rubin came to the exact same conclusion as the anti-Semites, only instead of cheering for Candace, found it vile and rebuked her, Candace quickly attacked, saying, quote, "What's amazing about this is that I didn't name any country in this tweet. I simply stated that genocide is wrong always. This."
Okay, so this is incredible. I have to bring out my wow right here. Because this is so incredible. First of all, I can understand why Candace thought it was a good idea to play this, because this is a massive, massive self-own. He just laid out, in part, in a very, very, I think, cogent way, why what she was doing was so transparently anti-Semitic. He just laid it out. You say something that's kind of vague, kind of coded. All of the low, and I got to tell you, if you've ever been on X, it is just a cesspool of stupid people. Like X is truly a terrible place. I go there and I go, why am I putting myself through this? I use it because it's valuable for information, but generally speaking, it's a place that I just don't want to be there. All of the lowlifes, all of the people with terrible, terrible opinions, all the race, it really is bad. I'm just going to say that. But when those people come out, they come out in full force and they're cheering on what she's saying. And she doesn't clarify what she means. She doesn't say anything about it. But then when somebody criticizes her, coming to the exact same conclusion as the lowlife, the jihadists, the anti-Semites, the Groypers, the Nick Fuenteses of the world, when they come out and support it, she doesn't say anything. Somebody stands against it, reaching the same conclusion, and now she comes alive to criticize. And now she wants to say that doesn't mean anything. And then she goes, well, I didn't mention any country's name. You see what I'm saying? You see how she plays stupid when it works in her favor? Just like I said, hey, Erica Kirk could have said the same thing when she did that interview with Harris Faulkner. I never said your name, Candace. Why do you assume I'm talking about you? See, that's a silly game. It's a ridiculous and silly game, and everyone knows it. And just to circle back to something that when she was talking about how she ended her little, scripture quoting, which it's hilarious to me because now anytime somebody quotes the scripture, this is hilarious. I should have remembered this. Anytime somebody quotes the scripture to rebuff Candace about something she's doing, like Ali Stuckey or anybody else, it's you being a fake Christian and using the Bible to manipulate. But she's quoting Matthew 5 in the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the peacemakers, and ends it with Christ as King. And she's like, Ben Shapiro is losing his mind because I'm quoting the Bible. Well, which is it, Candace? Can you quote the Bible in support of your views and your positions, or can you not? Is it manipulation or is it not? Because you seem to think that it's manipulation when other actual Christians do it, which she is not one. But the Christ is King thing, I just think I want to just briefly touch on that because everyone has understood, and I don't think she's going to play it here, but one of the things that Jeremy Boring and Daily Wire often said is that the Christ is King thing was started by Nick Fuentes and the Groypers. It's an overtly, intentionally something that's supposed to trigger Jews, and they don't use it as a proclamation. of Christ being king per se, as they use it as a club to bludgeon Jews, right? So while it is true, the Christ is king thing is kind of like Black Lives Matter. It doesn't mean what the words mean. It's semantically overloaded intentionally. When you say Black Lives Matter, you might as well say communist revolution, because that's what it actually means. And when you say Christ is king, you might as well say the Jews are scum, because that's what it actually means. So Candace is just full of crap. And she was told this. She was told this by many people. She tried to pretend like she didn't understand it, or if she did, she didn't care. But everyone knows what I think is true. So anyway, let's continue.
This is not a controversial stance. Interesting how you interpreted it. And then followed up with, quote, in short, if the blanket statement that genocide is wrong upsets you in any way, then you need to check yourself. I said exactly what I meant, and I won't be backing down or apologizing or further clarifying this statement. Within 24 hours, Candace liked a post calling Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal. Now let's be clear. You're free to disagree with this.
All subliminal cowardice nonsense. Why couldn't she just say plainly what she believed?
Israel's conduct, and you're free to oppose the Netanyahu government. But the idea that Israel is committing genocide or that Netanyahu is a war criminal is just factually baseless. Unfortunately, Candace routinely makes insinuations about Jews that both lovers of anti-Semitism and haters of anti-Semitism both agree is anti-Semitic. And in almost every one of these instances, Candace says nothing to the anti-Semites who cheer her and only pushes back against those who disapprove of her comments.
I can't tell you how many times jihadists on X and YouTube have praised Candace and Tucker. I mean, just think about it. Just think about that.
On February 28th of this year, Candace, just asking questions, posted, quote, time to look into the history and profiteering of pornography. Her replies were immediately flooded with anti-Semites cheering her for the question and providing the answer that they interpreted her to mean, the Jews. Once again, Candace did nothing to disabuse the anti-Semites of their assumption. But when Anthony Koch came to the exact same conclusion, Candace pushed back, saying, quote, this is utterly insane. I tweeted that porn is harming men in our society, and this person has interpreted that as an attack on Jews. This is an example of clinical insanity. There is no other explanation.
I stand by all of those tweets. Pornography is harming.
This is what I'm saying. Candace is such a dishonest scumbag. And there again, that's just a good old-fashioned statement of fact. It's just maybe you say it's just a good old-fashioned insult. It's not an argument. I'm not saying that because that invalidates what she says. I'm just making a statement of fact, like Jesus or John the Baptist calling certain folks back in the day a brood of vipers. Candace is just a lowlife, a dishonest person. She is pretending not to understand the subtext of all of her statements, which are so obvious and transparent, which has become more overt as time has gone on. And we're going to see how that plays out in the Erica Kirk situation, because she tried to deny she was criticizing Erica Kirk, or she was calling out Erica Kirk, or implicating Erica Kirk, and now she's just doing it overtly. So,
Men, we should look into who profits off of pornography. Genocide is always wrong, no matter which country calls for it, whatever.
Who profits off of pornography? I think a lot of these young, mostly white women, to be quite frank, young girls in the United States creating pornography. The idea that it's the Jews is stupid. Okay, basically, porn has gone mainstream, or it's gone not mainstream. It's gone independent, right? It's not big production studios creating it anymore.
What was controversial about anything that I say? Now, I'm again wanting you to, these are my crimes. Just imagine 300 people being brought and said, like, she said this, and this is what we know. And then he goes into a diatribe about the real meaning of Christ is king, and he shows videos of Nick Fuentes which had nothing to do with me. I had never even spoken. I think only one time I had spoken ever to Nick Fuentes, and it was pertaining to Kanye.
It doesn't matter, Candace. You know, what's really funny is that people, you know, there are a lot of people when people would start to say things that come from Marxists and, you know, communists and things like that, they would express ideas that originated with those kinds of thinkers. And they would say, well, I've never read, you know, Marcuse. I've never read, insert, you know, communist apologists or revolutionary. It doesn't matter if you ever read them. It's still ideas that originated with those people. And you might not even know you're agreeing with them, but it doesn't make it any less wrong or absurd.
Yay. Yeah, that was it. But I'm showing you this because it's important for you to understand that this has never stopped. I want you to imagine if you view yourself to be a slave owner and that slave not only survives like this public whipping, but that escapes and becomes successful. That's pretty much my relationship with Ben Shapiro since he's fired me, because they have not stopped. They have not stopped. I am talking about people working behind the scenes to call advertisers, attempting to bankrupt me in courts, sending undercover interns to stalk me. He has issued thus far 3 court proceedings, okay, for every solitary petty infraction against things that I say. He's worked with Barry Weiss behind the scenes to have articles written about me. It is nonstop. I refer to this, just to be clear, as legal abuse. It's legal abuse. And I have put up with a lot of it. I have put up with the pettiness of even suing me because I interviewed a USS Liberty survivor who mentioned your name as you.
I don't know. There again, what was the terms of their departure, right? I remember pretty start. I would see Ben Shapiro doing interviews and people would ask him about Candace Owens and he would just refuse to comment. Right? So apparently they had some legal agreement where he was bound to not say anything about her and I don't know what the time frame of that was and I don't know what the context of it is, but he couldn't talk about her, apparently, for whatever reason, or he couldn't at least talk about the conditions under which she was fired or something to that effect. And he held to that. Now, if she didn't hold to that and he was going to hold her to every single infraction, that's his prerogative. You know, if that's the legal framework, that's the legal framework. And if he puts some extra stank on it because he doesn't like you, hey, it is what it is. Okay, that doesn't mean that let's not forget the context of what we're talking about. That doesn't mean that you have a right to accuse Charlie Kirk's family and friends of covering up his murder or planning it, because that's really what this is about.
Pretend that you care about free speech and debate. I've put up with a lot of it, but today I draw the line. I draw the line with this miserable imp when it comes to Charlie Kirk, okay? Don't try me on this, but you keep trying me on this. You are an imposter, Ben. You're an imposter. You pay to pretend that you're friends, that you have a right to be on that stage because you get donors to pressure people, because you know Jewish people who can threaten to take money, or you say, I'm going to do an advertising spend. Here's $1 million. I'm sorry, you're dead. The entire world knows that you are an imposter. I mean, you're so much of a fraud that essentially what you do is you have people send around clips to grown men to cheer you on, to pretend like the audiences love you. You staff audiences with people that work for YAF who are told to explode into cheers when you hit the stage because you don't have the confidence anymore to go out into the world because you know people see you for what you are.
So, if true, then what? Does it follow then? I just want to keep framing that.
And so it exactly what he did yesterday. We can now listen to what this imposter said.
Exactly what he did yesterday. What he did yesterday had nothing to do with any of that.
As he hit the stage, Charlie Kirk's organization, the one that he built for debate, if you have a disagreement, and he instructs people here in this speech to go after me and Tucker Carlson, right? That's what he's going to do. He wants us deplatformed. So he's going to attack me, he's going to attack Tucker Carlson, and he's going to attack Megyn Kelly because she's at the beginning of what these people have put me and Tucker and Charlie Kirk through. Take a listen to a portion of what Ben had to say.
So, if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk casting aspersions at TPUSA and the people who work here, who worked with Charlie every single day, his best friends, to cast aspersions at Mikey McCoy and Andrew Colvin and Blake Neff and Tyler Boyer, and yes, at Erica Kirk, and to imply or outright claim complicity in a cover-up over Charlie's murder, to spew absolutely baseless trash implicating everyone from French intelligence to Mossad to members of TPUSA in Charlie's murder or a cover-up in that murder, then we, as people with a microphone, have a moral obligation to call that out by name. So no, Tucker Carlson, it is not an excuse to go silent on Candace's targeting of TPUSA. Or to mirror her bullshit lines of questioning because you love Candace personally. The same holds true.
Now, Tucker did that. He tried to give some oxygen to the stupid Egyptian plane theory, right? He did that explicitly. And as a person speaking at Turning Point USA, while Candace is vowing to try to, I don't understand. I almost got to bring you in close here to kind of talk about this because this is so.
Of Megyn Kelly, a person.
This is so ridiculous that I don't understand. Sorry. I don't understand why this needs to be explained. You got Tucker speaking at Turning Point, which frankly, I mean, if I'm keeping it a buck, I think this is kind of a failure of leadership. I really think Erica needs some help. You know, I'm going to give her a pass because she's new at it and, you know, there's a lot going on. So I'm going to let her get her sea legs. But Tucker should not be speaking at MFest. Neither should Megyn Kelly. So they're both speaking at MFest and also supporting Candace, who is trying to tear down Turning Point USA. Now, if you're going to go speak at an organization that somebody is trying to tear down, like, why would you be participating with Turning Point when you are friends and allies with a person who is a sworn enemy of the organization that is employing your services? Why are you doing that? I don't understand why this needs to be explained. It probably is. If you believe in Turning Point, then you should be telling Candace to chill. Chill. And you can't be up here with some bullcrap like Candace is saying, like, oh, but this is what Charlie Kirk wanted. Oh, Charlie Kirk wanted for people who are participating in AmFest and building up his organization to also support the people who are trying to tear it down? How stupid does that sound? I don't understand how that makes sense in any way, shape, or form. But that's what Candace is asking us to believe, and it's completely ridiculous. But we'll let her continue to hang herself with her own rope. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
And I consider a friend, characterizing Candace as a young mother and thus shying away from condemning her actions or fibbing about them. That is a non-starter. When Candace Owens says, I don't know, but I know, that is retarded. And we are all more retarded for having heard it.
Well, Ben, when it comes to you and having worked with you, I just know the tactics that you use to feign popularity in the public. I just know the amount of money that you are willing to spend on advertising to inflate your numbers to make people think that you're popular. So, yeah.
This is so hilarious. She's like some high school chick who thinks this is a popularity contest. I can't even. I mean, this is so crazy to me. Candace, someone should tell you, this is not the senior prom. We're not voting for prom king and prom queen. Okay? Nobody cares that your show is big. Your whole entire audience is a bunch of idiot so-called mommy sleuths who have too much time on their hands. These are basically people who are hungry for gossip and garbage, trafficking of you. There ain't a nickel's worth of difference between what you do and what Wendy Williams did, except for what you do is much more destructive to the lives of people you accuse. That's why you're going to get Alex Jonesed. The Macrons are going to sue you into oblivion. You're going to lose massive amounts of money, and you're going to deserve it. Because what you're doing is despicable. This is not a popularity contest. Just because people tune into your show doesn't mean that you are right. This is very childish. So let's continue.
I don't have to say we don't know no when it comes to you. You are such a joke of a little man. Your jealousy against Tucker, your ability to believe that you can keep manipulating the markets. You know those kids booed you on that stage. The amount of messages I got from Turning Point USA people saying, what is happening? Why is he on this stage? Standing against everything that Charlie believed in. That's what you're
Rich, okay, I'm going to let her continue.
doing. You're standing against everything that Charlie believed in because you weren't his friend. He didn't like you. For that very reason, I look at you and I just think you are such a little worm. I could see you right now, probably. What can we get out to her? And we're going to sue her into bankruptcy again, right? Sue her for every infraction, every word that I don't like, and every time my feelings are hurt. Because what you really believe in is Baal Berith. That's what your people believe in. You believe that you are contract lords and that people
Your people, the Jews. But she's not an anti-Semite.
are not allowed to violate.
What's the difference between what she's doing right here and Nick Fuentes saying black people should go to jail? How much daylight is between this woman with this diseased mind, and her Jew derangement syndrome, and Nick Fuentes saying, black people need to go to jail. Okay.
Contracts or you will ruin them for years. You fire someone and you effectively stalk and harass them for years after. I'm here to let you know that I'm done with it. I am done with it. This one is so fully off of the mother effing plantation. Truly, Ben Shapiro, fuck you and the midget horse that you rode in on. And I say that on behalf of the world. I know you're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself.
Now she goes into full ad hominem attacks. Okay, so let's understand what's happening. She's full on employing basic freshman philosophy class logical fallacies, right? Straight to the ad hominem. You're a little man. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes you, Benny Shapiro. You're little. You're small. It's crazy to me. And I want to circle back to something because she said something that I want to press on. And I wonder why this is not getting more traction. But she says, you're not Charlie's friend. He didn't like you. You didn't even like him. Tim Pool has been out here in these YouTube and internet streets saying for several days that he's seen texts of you telling other conservative people that you couldn't stand Charlie. He's been saying it. He said it on multiple occasions. And you haven't denied it once. I just find that interesting. Could it be that you know that that's coming down the pike and that just pretending to ignore it? I mean, you got elephant ears about everything else. Rabbit ears about everything else. You know, Tim Pool accuses you of using the same security as Turning Point. You deny that. You know, you got these New York Post articles saying, Candace Owens threw her keys at a staffer and said, "Go park my car." You address that saying, "That's ridiculous. I never even drove myself to work." So you're addressing these things, but Tim Pool says that the person who you say you were such good friends with, that you were going around telling people that you couldn't stand him and you can't find the time to deny it. I'm not saying it's true. I don't know that it's true. But Tim Pool says he's seen the text messages. And that's very Candace-esque, right? I mean, I don't know if I don't really know if he's just kind of using the tactics that you're using. But, if he's saying he's seen the text, it's quite plausible. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know that it's true. All I know is that if we're using your tactics, if we're using your standards against you, the fact that you aren't denying it, the fact that you aren't answering his questions, that implies guilt, right? Because that's how you do it. But let's let you continue, because the best part hasn't even got. I told you this was going to be long. The best part we hadn't even got to yet. Here we go.
Yourself as a Talmudic Jew, and I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud so that you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay? If he's following the rules of the
So now the Talmud teaches everyone to hate the Jews to hate the whites and to hate the blacks. Huh? No, I'm not going to lie. Not familiar with the Talmud, but she's holding up a book. This just shows you how stupid she is.
two white men. What is in that Talmud that you know?
The Talmud Jew. It's really interesting. She's not. The Talmud is like a library of books. I mean, the Talmud is enormous. And she's holding up a book like it's the Talmud. She's not holding up the Talmud. Now, there again, I don't study the Talmud. The Talmud is it's basically like a commentary on the Torah. And from what I understand, there's a lot of nonsense in it, a lot of not great stuff in it. But the whole reason why the Talmud is so voluminous is because there's a lot of debate and a lot of differing opinions about certain applications of the Torah. And so, the old saying, if you have two Jews in a room, you have three opinions, actually is kind of true. So regardless of what the Talmud says, there's a lot of disagreement on it. So even if the Talmud did say something to the effect of what she is implying, which I doubt very seriously, if you open up the Talmud, it says, as a Jew, you must hate the white man and the black man and all the other men who are not Jewish. If it said something like that, there's more than likely something. This is just absurd. I don't even know why I'm explaining this, because it's such a dumb point. And it's a distraction. Because this is when people don't have a good defense, they go on offense. Because offense is often more effective. And that's what Candace is doing.
Know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay? If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hates, they think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them, that they have a right to lie to us, that they have.
Now she's going full Louis Farrakhan And this is what, and Tim Pool has talked about this too. I'm dropping a lot of Tim Pool jewels here, but Tim Pool has been saying this. What Candace has been doing has so clearly been violating YouTube's terms of service. How do we know that? Because Nick Fuentes got banned for doing something similar. Nick Fuentes he got banned from YouTube, and if he were to get back on, he would be demonetized. Same thing with Alex Jones. They were demonetizing Steven Crowder for doing similar things. They were saying he was harassing certain groups. How is it that she can get on YouTube every single day and talk about Jews this way and harass Brigitte Macron, saying that she has a penis, and that not violate YouTube's terms of service, but they obviously do. And Tim Pool was making this point just the other day, and it makes it seem like she's the psyop. Like, how is it possible that somebody higher up in YouTube is not covering for her when she's getting all these views and getting all this money while also violating YouTube's terms of service? How does that work? The way she talks about Jews is 100% against their terms of service. But we're not going to talk about that. That's too conspiratorial for me.
Have a right to sue us and take everything that we have. That they have a right to deceive us. That they have a right to treat Charlie the way that he treated Charlie while he was alive, only to then try to defraud the population into thinking that he is somehow a part of his legacy, that he somehow cared about Charlie Kirk and cares to protect the people that are working at Turning Point USA. Goodbye, Ben. Goodbye.
Even if his motives are wrong for trying to protect them, you are openly trying to attack them, and you think that makes you better? Please have several seats, Candace.
The question is, how much more money is Ben Shapiro going to spend to make people think that he's popular? How many more articles is his father going to write under a pen name, Hank Berrien of the Daily Wire, under the pen name Hank Berrien, as he wrote while Ben was at Breitbart, before he turned his back and betrayed them too, because that is his nature. He's one of these belly creatures, sliver on.
More ad hominem.
The question is, how many more weeks and years do we have to keep pretending like Ben Shapiro is relevant? It's an open-ended question.
Popularity contest, genetic fallacy, nobody likes Ben Shapiro, therefore he's wrong.
Of course, what followed Ben Shapiro on stage is somebody who Charlie Kirk loved very much and who he fought for to the very end against the Jewish donors who were pressuring him, some of them because Ben Shapiro insisted that they do.
Now, Candy had a little excursion over into a Tucker Carlson response to this, and it's like Tucker Carlson was Charlie's real friend, blah blah blah, blah, whatever. We're gonna skip that because the juicy tidbits, she saved the best for last. Candy, take it away. Inform us of our unknown history, if you will.
And to people that are at home, I implore you to wake up to these people who believe that they are contract lords. I challenge Black Americans to wake up to your true history, because your quarrel is not with white men, okay? Wake up to who publishes these books and keeps us warring with one another. Christians versus Christians, right? Christians versus Muslims. Wake up and learn the true history of slavery.
Really?
Because that wasn't exactly a white men sport, okay? Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade. They've buried a lot of it, but it's there. And you
Y'all, I got to tell you, this little phrase right here, this was what made me say, I have to get up right now and do this video. Because this is so ridiculously unhinged and so ahistorical that I'm just thinking, like, maybe the crazies, the Candy's little fans that thought she got cloned when she went to go talk to Erica Kirk, maybe they're right. Because maybe this is a fake person. This is some AI clone. Candy is out here telling us that the Jews, that the Jews were trading us. That's crazy. That's amazing. All right. I think that's enough Candace Owens for tonight. I really do think that I've had enough. That was just disturbing and entertaining and enlightening all at the same time. But hey, this is why I bring you the good stuff. Okay? Now, we're going to end this video. And I just have to say thank you to all of my new subscribers. I just recently crossed over the 10,000 subscriber threshold. Round of applause for you guys. I'm very, very excited about that. Very, very, very proud to have earned your trust. And now we're going from 10,000 to 20, from 20 to 30, from 30 to 50, 50 to 100. I say end of 2026, let's go to 100K. And you'll be able to say, I got in on the ground floor, not like the rest of you posers and bandwagon people who got on the Todd Thinks when he became big. Like I was one of the first. You know, you have bragging rights. Kind of like in the cool indie band after they go, big time. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this video, to this channel, and let me know what you think about the content here. Of course, I always like to hear your thoughts. Is Candy off her rocker? Is Candy talking right? Excuse me, I gotta clear my voice. Candy got my voice cracking. She's, enlightening me with such new information as the Jews enslaved us. So anyway, what do you think about Candy? Did Candy go full Joy Reid? Let me know in the comments, please. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if it's your first time coming by, I appreciate you doing so. Make sure you come on back because there's more where this came from. That's all I got for you today, my friends. Till next time, God bless you.